Hello, everyone. I'm Sofia C. Atienza, and this is our final topic for biology for the college entrance exam review program of Smile Taytay Training Institute. So, sa mga previous videos natin, we've talked about cells, yung mga processes, yung mga metabolic processes na nag-occur sa cells, even cell division, and in our last video, we've also discussed tissues. So for this video, we'll see how tissues combine to form organs and organ systems in the human body. So we'll start with digestive system. So the food processing begins with ingestion o yung tinatawag na act of eating or feeding. Humans are bulk feeders. Ibig sabihin, kapag kumakain tayo ng pagkain, we eat relatively large pieces of food. And so, sa bibig or sa mouth, this is where the digestive tract begins to break down the food and yung liquid na ini-ingest natin into smaller parts by mechanical digestion or by chewing. Ninunguya natin yung pagkain and yung liquid na nilalagay natin sa mga bibig natin. And mahalaga yung mechanical digestion or breakdown because it helps to chop down food into smaller absorbable pieces para mas madaling ma-absorb ng katawan natin yung mga nutrients. And also, aside from mechanical breakdown, nangyayari din yung chemical digestion. When chemical digestion happens, they use enzymes katulad ng amylase na nagbe-break down ng carbohydrates into simple sugars. So again, sa mouth, dito nangyayari yung mechanical and chemical digestion. Now, yung salivary glands naman, they produce saliva which contains also enzymes katulad ng amylase. So, aside from that, it also acts as a buffer, na-maintain yung pH level ng saliva between 6.35 to 6.85 para hindi naman masyadong um, maging masyadong acid or basic yung dadaanan ng food papunta sa stomach. So, saliva, yung pinoproduce ng salivary glands, it lubricates the food for safe passage and nagko-contain din siya ng lysozyme. So, ibig sabihin, isa tong antimicrobial agent na protekta against pathogens. So, sa next part naman, meron tayong esophagus. So, alam naman natin or familiar tayo sa esophagus. So, typically around 10 inches long yung esophagus kung saan nag-occur yung transportation of food to the stomach for digestion. After the food is chewed and swallowed, it takes about 5 to 10 seconds for it to pass down the esophagus to the stomach, where it spends 2 to 6 hours being partially digested. So, paano ba bumababa yung pagkain from here, dito sa mouth, papunta sa stomach? So, food is pushed along by peristalsis. So, yung peristalsis, it's the alternating waves of smooth muscle contraction, and relaxation. So, after na dumaan yung food sa esophagus, nandito na tayo sa stomach. The stomach plays two major roles in digestion. So una, it acts as a storage. So may mga parang accordion-like folds yung stomach and very elastic yung wall ng stomach. So, ibig sabihin, nag expand siya or may capability siya na mag-expand. So, the stomach can stretch to accommodate about 2 liters of food and fluid. Ayan si stomach. Next, na major function ni stomach is to, of course, process the food into a liquid suspension. So, yung stomach, it secretes a digestive fluid called gastric juice, and it mixes yung gastric juice with the food through a churning action. So, ibig sabihin ng churning action, alam niyo yung nakakita na ba kayo ng butter na ginawa from heavy cream? 'Di ba parang pinapaikot-ikot siya ng mabilis para mag-separate yung fat dun sa buttermilk. So, yun. Parang ganun din yung ginagawa ni stomach. Pero instead of separating yung contents, naghahalo siya ng gastric juice kasama nung pagkain. Now, the mixture or this mixture of ingested food and gastric juice is called chyme. Ito siya, yung chyme. Pepsin is a primary digestive enzyme in the stomach that breaks down dietary proteins naman into smaller peptides and amino acids. So, kung napapansin nyo, kanina nabanggit natin yung enzymes na amylase dito, ano yung binibreakdown niya. Then, dito sa stomach, ano yung primary digestive enzyme, si pepsin. Ano naman yung binibreakdown ni pepsin. After kay stomach, the small intestine receives partially digested food from the stomach and then secretes digestive enzymes like trypsin and chymotrypsin and absorbs nutrients as food travels through its folds. So, it utilizes structural folds, yung tinatawag na villi and microvilli, to maximize the surface area for nutrient absorption. So, si villi and si microvilli, para silang mga finger-like na projections dito sa lining ng intestine. Kasi, tingnan natin. Para siyang ganito. Yan, mga finger-like projections. Kasi nga naman na isang flat lang na surface na ganun, yung nasa lining, hindi ba mas, kung mas maraming surface area yung exposed sa food na dadaan, mas mapapabilis yung absorption kaysa sa isang diretso lang na ganito. So, ayun yung function ni villi and ni microvilli sa small intestine. Now, the arrival of the chyme in the duodenum triggers the release of the hormone secretin, which stimulates the pancreas to secrete bicarbonate to neutralize the acidity of chyme and acts as a buffer for chemical digestion in the small intestine. Okay? Kasi masyadong maasid, masyadong mababa yung pH level. So, syempre kung masyadong mababa yung pH level ng chyme, ano yung magiging effect nun sa lining ng organ na to? Eh di syempre parang pwede siyang mabutas or masira kung palaging nangyayari yung ganong occurrence, eh palaging kumakain yung human, 'di ba? So, kailangan niya ng parang buffer, yun nga, yung sinisikret ng pancreas sa bicarbonate para man-neutralize yung acidity ng digested food pagdating dito sa small intestine. Now, in humans, fat digestion is facilitated naman by bile salts, which act as emulsifiers that break apart yung fat and lipid molecules. So, yung bile salts, sila yung major component ng bile. Sinisikret naman yung bile ng liver and concentrated yon sa gallbladder. Okay, so familiar ba kayo sa term na gallstones? So yung gallstones, yun yung mga solid deposits often made up of cholesterol that can form in the gallbladder. And kapag na-form sila sa gallbladder, naboblock nila yung bile ducts o yung daanan ng bile. Kaya sumasakit or kaya halimbawa sinabi na may gallstones sa isang tao, sumasakit yung parte na to ng katawan niya. It's because kapag nga naman naboblock ng mga bato, kasi gallstones, naboblock ng ganong klaseng bato yung daanan ng bile, syempre masakit yun, 'di ba? Eh, gaano lang ba kaliit yung daanan ng bile? So, isipin natin yun. Tapos may bloke ng solid deposit na nagmaharang sa kanya. Now, after the small intestine digest and absorb most nutrients, yung remaining liquid na mix, yung chyme na may pinaghalo ng water and fiber and etc. It enters the large intestine. Now, pagdating kay large intestine, what remain are the feces or the feces. Now, yun yung waste ng digestive system, which become increasingly solid as they move along the colon, of course, by the movement of peristalsis. Now, it takes approximately 12 to 24 hours for the material to travel the length of the colon. Ito. Yun, ganun kahaba yung time na ina-allocate ng katawan for uh, processing yung feces. Ngayon, kapag yung lining na to ng large intestine naging irritated siya, let's say, nagkaroon ng viral or bacterial infection, for instance, kaunting water yung absorb than normal. So, kapag less water than normal yung na-reabsorb ni large intestine, nagre-result siya to diarrhea. Okay? Now, the opposite occurs sa constipation kapag yung feces as it moves along the colon ng mabagal, kapag mabagal siyang nag-move dito sa large intestine, it causes too much water to be reabsorbed. And so kapag masyadong maraming tubig naman yung na-absorb na large intestine, mas nagiging compacted yung feces. And since compacted siya, mas mabagal siyang dumadaloy or nagmo-move along dito sa colon. So, nagre-result pa rin siya ng sakit sa tiyan. Now, at the end, the terminal portion of the large intestine is the rectum. This is where the feces are stored until they can be eliminated through the anus. So that's our digestive system. Dito naman sa circulatory system, meron tayong three main organs. We have the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels. Ayan. So, when you think of circulatory system, you can think of it as the body's delivery system. Ayun, parang si SPX ni Shopee. Kasi nagtatransport siya ng oxygen, nutrients, and even hormones. Now, when you exercise, for example, your heart beats faster to deliver more oxygen. That's what the heart do. It is a pump that uses energy to push blood. And so, by pushing blood, it creates pressure. Yung pressure na yon, or yung tinatawag na hydrostatic pressure, it pushes blood through an extensive network of blood vessels. Now, after traveling around the body, the blood returns to the heart. Now, bakit important yung trabaho na to ng circulatory system? Unang-una, it connects the body cells to important organs and moves materials between them. It helps to, bring oxygen gas to cells. It helps to deliver yung nutrients nga from the food that we eat, and it also carries away the waste. So, double duty pala siya. It works like a delivery system and at the same time also as a garbage system for the body. Now we have three types of blood vessels. Dito yung parang highway. 'Di ba? Kung yung blood, yung parang truck na nagta-transport ng materials, we have here yung mga blood vessels kung saan dumadalo yung blood. So the arteries carries the blood away from the heart. So kapag arteries, away from the heart towards the capillaries. Veins, on the other hand, returns blood towards the heart from the capillaries. Yung capillaries, these are tiny vessels, tiny blood vessels that connect the arteries and the veins kung saan nagkakaroon ng exchange ng nutrient and waste. Meron tayong dalawang circulation pathways dito sa circulatory system. We have the pulmonary circulation. So kapag sinabi natin na pulmonary circulation, yung right side ng heart, nagpa-pump siya ng deoxygenated blood papunta sa lungs para maka-pick up ng oxygen. And kapag nag-pick up siya ng oxygen, nagkakaroon ng exchange. So, ibig sabihin, para maka-pick up siya ng oxygen, nagre-release naman ng carbon dioxide. So, that's your pulmonary circulation. Ano nangyayari sa right side of the heart where it pumps the oxygenated blood to be delivered to the lungs. Second circulation pathway ay yung tinatawag na systemic circulation. Yung left side ng puso, it pumps oxygenated blood via the aorta to the rest of the body. So, si aorta yung um, pinakamalaki na arteries sa katawan ng tao. So, again, we have two types of circulation pathways. We have pulmonary and systemic. Pulmonary, to pick up oxygen in the lungs. Kapag naman systemic, nagpa-pump siya na oxygenated blood towards the different parts of the body. So, from the heart to the different parts of the body. Nabanggit natin sa last video about animal tissues na yung blood, it's a type of a connective tissue consisting of cells suspended in a liquid matrix called the plasma. So, when you separate yung components ng blood using a centrifuge, it reveals yung mga cellular elements like ito yung mga cells and other cell fragments na nag-occupy about 45% ng volume ng blood. And the rest ng volume ng blood, it's made up of plasma. So, sa plasma, nakadissolve dyan yung mga ions and proteins that together with the blood vessels, they function in osmotic regulation, transport, and even in defense. Next, we have the leukocytes or the white blood cells. So, the blood contains five major types of white blood cells. And lahat sila, yung function nila is to fight infections. Now, some are phagocytic, meaning they engulf and digest yung mga microorganisms or debris na makikita sa dead cells ng sariling katawan. Next, we have the platelets. Platelets are pinch off cytoplasmic fragments of specialized bone marrow cells. Okay? So, maliit lang sila. They are about 2 to 3 micrometer in diameter. Wala din silang nucleus. So, platelets serve both structural and molecular functions in blood clotting naman. Next, we have the erythrocytes or yung red blood cells. And they are the most numerous blood cells. Kasi yung function nila is to transport oxygen. And yung structure nila, it is closely related dun sa function nila na yon. Most of, yung human erythrocytes or yung mga human red blood cells, ang itsura kasi nila, para silang disc. Ayan siya, disc shape siya, about 7 to 8 micrometer in diameter. These blood cells are also biconcave. So, ibig sabihin, mas manipis sa gitna and makapal sa outer edges. Ngayon, yung shape na to, yung pagiging biconcave niya, it increases yung surface area. And so, kapag mas malaki yung surface area, na-enhance nun yung rate of diffusion of the oxygen across the plasma membrane. Now, mature mammalian erythrocytes, ibig sabihin yung mga red blood cells ng vertebrates or ng mga mammals, they also lack nucleus. So, yung unusual characteristic na yon na pagkawala or walang nucleus, it leaves more space in these tiny cells for hemoglobin. And mahalaga yung hemoglobin kasi siya yung protein. It is an iron containing protein na nagtra-transport ng oxygen. Erythrocytes, aside from lacking nucleus, also lack mitochondria. So, they generate yung ATP nila by anaerobic metabolism kasi nga naman, nagta-transport sila ng oxygen. Tapos, gagamit sila ng oxygen to transport ATP. Tama ba yun, di ba? So, to generate yung ATP, um, gumagamit sila ng anaerobic metabolism or yun yung pag-convert ng sugar na hindi kailangan ng oxygen. Okay, so next we have the respiratory system. So, konektado siya sa circulatory system natin. From the nasal cavity and the pharynx, dito sa part na to, inhaled air passes through the larynx, trachea, bronchi, to the bronchioles, which end in microscopic alveoli, lined by a thin, moist epithelium. So yung branches ng pulmonary artery, nagdadala siya ng oxygen poor blood sa alveoli. So ibig sabihin, um, dugo na walang oxygen. Yung branch naman ng pulmonary vein, nagtatransport siya ng oxygen-rich blood from the alveoli back to the heart. Okay, so mahalaga yung process na to na nangyayari sa respiratory system because this gas exchange or yung pag-pick up ng um, veins and pagdala ng pulmonary artery ng dugo dito sa alveoli, ito yung nagsusustain sa atin, enables us na magkaroon ng oxygen sa mga dugo natin. Another thing to take note here sa respiratory system ay yung gas exchange na nangyayari sa alveoli. So, hindi lang siya basta pick up and send off ng dugo. May gas exchange din na nangyayari sa alveoli na it's a very important process kasi this is where the oxygen enters the bloodstream or yung dugo and the carbon dioxide from the blood leaves via simple diffusion. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, tumatagos-tagos lang sila sa mga plasma membrane na nandyan. So, that's your respiratory system. Kung mapapansin nyo, nagbibigay lang tayo ng brief overview ng kung ano yung nangyayari dun sa system, kung ano yung parang simplified version ng mga processes nila. Kasi hindi naman natin kailangang i-memorize yung mga parts or yung mga o yung mga organs dun sa mismo organ systems. Kasi, yung napapansin ko na mga type of questions for this topic ay katulad ng sa following slide. So here we have a practice question regarding human biology. Let me read, or you can pause the video and try to answer this question on your own. After surgical removal of an infected gallbladder, a person must be especially careful to restrict dietary intake of blank. So, to tackle this type of question, intindihin muna natin kung ano yung hinihingi niya. So, nagbigay siya ng situation, yung patient tinanggalan ng gallbladder. So, ano ba yung nangyayari sa human body? Or ano yung kailangan niya na maging, um, saan siya kailangan maging careful kapag tinanggalan na siya ng gallbladder? So, after the surgical removal of gallbladder, yung tawag dun sa surgery na yun ay cholecystectomy, or maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. So, pag nawala ng gallbladder yung isang human, that person must restrict yung intake niya ng fat. Okay, so the answer here is letter C. It's because yung primary function ni gallbladder is to store and concentrate bile produced by the liver. Okay, so si liver, siya yung magsisikret ng bile. Then, ang magko-concentrate nun or yung mag-store ng bile ay si gallbladder. Now, bile is essential for the emulsification and digestion of fats sa small intestine. Without the gallbladder, to release yung bile na yon in response when you take a meal or kapag kumain ka, nagbaba ka ng pagkain sa stomach or sa small intestine mo, the liver drips bile continuously, and kapag patuloy siyang uh, nagre-release or nagsisecrete ng bile, napupunta yon sa intestine. Now, consuming large amounts of fatty foods can overwhelm yung limited digestive capacity natin. So, it can lead to symptoms like bloating, o kaya magkakaroon ka ng gas sa tiyan, and diarrhea, and, sasakit yung tiyan mo in general. So, a person must be especially careful to restrict dietary intake of fat kapag wala na siyang gallbladder. So, kung mapapansin nyo, sa mga ganitong type of question, just simple lang siya. It requires you to at least have a knowledge base na mga basic function ng organs, ng organ system. But you don't need to memorize them, I- i-memorize or i-take note nyo na lang yung mga functions nila and important details like kung paano dumadalo yung food sa digestive o kaya paano yung daloy ng ah, blood sa heart. Yun yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina na pulmonary and systemic pathways. So, mga ganon. Another practice question we have here. Constipation can result from the consumption of a substance that blank. When does constipation occurs? So constipation occurs when the large intestine or the colon absorbs too much water from the waste material. Remember that the function of the large intestine is to reabsorb water and at the same time electrolytes as waste passes through the large intestine. Now, kapag yung process na yon minadali or kapag yung process na yon masyadong mabagal yung movement ng material dun sa large intestine, the stool or the feces becomes hard, siya matigas kasi dry siya, wala siya masyadong tubig. And so, it becomes difficult to pass through the large intestine. So, therefore, any substance or condition that promotes excessive water absorption directly leads to constipation. Very straightforward and I think simple yung ganitong question because kapag tinignan niyo yung options, madali niyo na lang ding madededuce kung ano yung tama or mali. Kasi una-una, syempre, hindi hindi mas-stimulate yung peristalsis just because you had constipation. Kasi peristalsis, siya yung muscle contraction na nag-move ng pagkain throughout the digestive tract. So, to stimulate yung contraction na yon, um, it's a common mechanism for laxative. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan ng intake ng laxative ng human person para ma-stimulate yung peristalsis and therefore preventing or to treat yung constipation. So, hindi siya magkakos ng constipation. Hindi rin siya letter C kasi most of the water absorption actually happens in the small intestine. So, if reabsorption is decreased, more fluid enters the large intestine. Now, kapag mas maraming fluid or liquid yung pumasok sa large intestine, mas liquidy or mas malambot yung feces. So, kapag mas malambot yung feces, mas easy for the feces or the waste material to pass through the digestive tract. Hindi rin naman siya letter B because faster movement through the colon reduces yung time na available for water reabsorption to occur. So, kapag konti lang yung time for water reabsorption, again, mas madaming water yung mare-retain dun sa waste material. So, kapag mas madaming water yung nasa waste material, it leads to a softer feces, meaning diarrhea, which is complete opposite of the constipation. Now, before we move on, just a quick heads up, yung next topic natin ay reproductive system, and this is part of, uh, you know, uh, a normal part of biology kasi it explains how human body develops. So, we will talk about this in a scientific way, just like we discussed yung heart and lungs natin. Now, yung lesson na to, it focuses on anatomy and health, not personal concerns. So I understand na some students may feel shy or uncomfortable or even sensitive about these topics. So kung hindi kayo agreeable dun sa susunod natin na topic, you can skip yung part na yon and go straight dun sa last part na nervous system. So we will discuss first the male reproductive system. So the male external reproductive organs are the scrotum and penis. Scrotum or yung balat sa labas ng testis, it helps to regulate the temperature of the testis by acting like a pouch of skin which holds the testes, okay, outside the male body. Now, sperm production works best at a slightly cooler temperature, like let's say about 2 degrees Celsius, lower than the rest of the body. Kaya mahalaga yung part na yon ng scrotum. Okay? Kasi hihiwalay niya yung testis or napoprotektahan niya yung testis against dun sa warmer temperature ng male body. Now, the penis, yung another or yung other external reproductive organ ng males, meron siyang dalawang trabaho. Una, it's the organ that delivers sperm outside the body during ejaculation. And yung pangalawa niyang function is to carry urine out of the body through the urethra. The testis naman, it's the male gonads and they produce the sperm. Ang tawag sa process ng sperm formation ay spermatogenesis. Pag nagawa na yung sperm sa testis, hindi siya agad parang lalabas sa testis. So, sperm is stored dun sa tinatawag na epididymis or parang ito, yung part na to, yung makapal na red na yan. Parang, para lang siyang um, naka-cover or parang naka-top dun sa testis. So, after produce or ma-form sa testis, pupunta siya sa epididymis for storage and maturation. Now, the sperm leaving the testis are immature. So the epididymis enables them to develop the ability to swim, thereby fertilizing egg cells. Now, when ejaculation begins, sperm travel through the vas deferens. So, from the epididymis, eto siya, yung dark red na yan, it travels to the vas deferens. It is a long muscular tube that carries the sperms upward behind the bladder, where they merge with the ejaculatory duct, where fluids from accessory glands, katulad ng seminal vesicle, gets added. Okay, so yung mga fluids or yung fluid part ng semen galing siya sa accessory glands katulad ng seminal vesicle. So this is for the sperm plus the fluid starts to become the semen. Finally, the semen or the sperm plus the fluids enter the urethra, which runs through the penis. So, yung urethra, ito siya, yung tube na yan. And during ejaculation, muscular contractions push the semen out of the body through the urethra. Common misconception is that um, yung precum itself, it is not produced by the testes. It is it contains sperm from previous ejaculation or small amounts of leakage, pero hindi siya pinoproduce ng testes. However, meron pa rin siyang traces ng sperm. So, it will still pose the risk of pregnancy kapag ah, nangyari yung breeding between male and female body. Another thing to take note dun sa fluid. So, hindi lang siya basta uh, parang hindi lang basta nag-join yung sperm from the vas deferens to the duct here. Yung fluid na yon galing sa mga accessory glands katulad ng seminal vesicle and prostate gland, it helps the sperm to survive then yung acidic environment, hindi lang ng female reproductive. Because remember, dadaan siya dito sa urethra na kung saan din dumadaan yung urine. So, ibig sabihin, acidic din yung environment na to sa male body. So, with the help of the fluid, mas tumataas yung survival rate ng sperm kapag nga ayun siya naging semen or nadagdagan siya ng fluid. Next, we have the female reproductive system, and just like with the male reproductive system, yung bigger picture here, it's the same. This system make gametes or egg cells, and it also provides a place where fertilization and development can happen. Now, the ovaries are the female gonads. These are the paired organs that make eggs or ova and also produce female sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone. Inside the ovaries are follicles, and each follicle has an immature egg cell surrounded by supporting cells. Now, kada menstrual cycle ng female body, one follicle magmamature siya, and kapag nagmature siya, nagre-release siya ng egg in a process called ovulation. Okay? Yung tinatawag dito na oogenesis, ito naman yung development ng mature oocytes or egg cells. It is a prolonged process for the human female kasi yung mga immature eggs na nandito sa ovary natin, they do not complete their development until years later or even decades later. Hindi katulad ng sa male na let's say every 24 hours may napoproduce yung spermatogenesis or yung mga seminiferous tubules sa testis, and iimbak na lang sila sa epididymis for maturity. Hindi ganun sa female, no? At birth, pagkapanganak ng female body, yung ovaries, yung dalawang to na ovaries, together they contain about 1 million to 2 million primary egg cells or immature egg cells. Sa milyon na yon, about 500 lang yung magiging fully mature between puberty and menopause. Now, a female body or someone with the female reproductive system is born with all the egg cells she will ever have. Pagkapanganak ng baby girl, let's say, kung ilan yung egg cell or immature egg cell na meron siya pagkapanganak, yun lang din yung egg cell na dadalhin niya hanggang maturity. So, hindi na gumagawa ng bagong egg cell yung katawan ng babae. So, for example, 1 milyon na egg cell lang yung meron siya pagkapanganak sa kanya, hanggang sa tumanda siya, yun lang din yung set na yon yung meron siya. Hindi na gagawa yung katawan niya ng bagong mga immature na egg cells. And yung mga cells na yon, they age with the female body. They aren't replaced or renewed. And over time, syempre hindi naman lahat ng egg cell na yon magagamit. Over time, they gradually die off or become damaged. Now, once an egg is released from the ovary, it doesn't, just float around randomly. It is captured by the fallopian tube or baka mas familiar kayo sa term na oviduct. Now, yung tube na to, it has little finger-like projections at the opening. Yung finger-like projections na yan, tawag doon ay fimbriae, that help to sweep the egg inside, papunta sa loob ng fallopian tube. Meron siyang tiny hair-like structures then called cilia that moves the egg towards the uterus, papunta sa uterus. Now, fertilization usually happens in the fallopian tube dito. So, kapag nag-meet yung sperm at yung egg, it usually happens here before the egg even gets to the uterus. Si uterus naman, dun yung site of implantation kapag nagsama na si sperm and si egg cell. Now, yung uterus, it is a thick muscular organ na para siyang upside down na pear or pear. And yung work or yung functioning uterus is to provide the environment for a fertilized egg to implant. Yan, dito siya sa lining ng uterus mag implant and grow into a baby. Now, yung inner lining na to ng uterus, ang tawag siya ay endometrium. And each month, yung endometrium na yan, kumakapal. And kapag kumakapal siya, it means that the body is preparing for a possible pregnancy. So, usually nangyayari yan kapag nasa puberty age na yung female body. However, if no fertilized egg arrives, yung lining na yon ng endometrium, nagsished siya. Ibig sabihin, natatanggal siya dun sa lining. It breaks apart during menstruation. And yung lower part ng uterus, yung narrower part ng uterus, ang tawag doon ay yung cervix. So, ang function ng cervix is to connect the uterus to the vagina. It also acts like a gateway that can open wider during childbirth. Now, finally, we have the vagina. This is the muscular canal that connects the cervix to the outside of the body. Now, may tatlong important functions si vagina. Una, it is the birth canal for delivery of the baby. It is also the passageway for the menstrual flow to leave the body. And this is also the site or ito yung lugar kung saan yung sperm na deposit during sexual intercourse. Now, si vagina, it is both an entry point for sperm and exit point for demonstration and childbirth. So wala ata akong practice question for these systems. Isa sa mga napansin ko na question sa kanila sa mga sample test na nakikita ko online, um, pinagko-compare yung structures ng male and female reproductive. So, alam naman natin na magkaiba yung itsura nila sa loob at sa labas. Pero isa sa mga nakikita kong questions ay halimbawa, ang tanong ay, which of the following structures in females is analogous in function to the vas deferens in males? So parang ganon. Ano yung may similar function between female and male? So katulad sa sinabi ko or binanggit ko na question kanina, ano yung may analogous function sa vas deferens ng male? So of course, that's the oviduct or the fallopian tube. Kasi parehas sila na nagta-transport ng kay male, sa male body, si vas deferens, nagta-transport siya ng sperm. Dito naman kay fallopian tube, sa female reproductive, nagta-transport siya ng egg cell. So, ganun. Again, hindi naman natin kailangang i-memorize lahat ng structure. Siguro maging familiar lang tayo sa kanila and maintindihan natin kung bakit or para saan yung function na yun or yung part na yun ng organ system. This is our last organ system. We have the nervous system. In many animals, yung neurons, they carry out integration to form uh, the central nervous system. Meron din tayo mga neurons that carry out information into and outside of the central nervous system. So kapag ganon, yung type ng neurons na yun or part sila ng tinatawag natin na peripheral nervous system naman. So dito muna tayo sa central nervous system. Nagko-consist siya ng brain and ng spinal cord. They act as the primary control and processing center of the body, of the human body. So we have the brain, siya yung tinatawag na command center, responsible for thinking, for learning, ginagamit natin siya ngayon, for memory, even for emotions and sensory processing. Si brain, it is consist of different parts then like cerebrum. So, sa cerebrum, siya yung nagko-control ng skeletal muscle contraction. Siya din yung part ng brain responsible for learning, emotion, memory, and even perception. Another part of the brain is the cerebellum. Siya naman yung nagko-coordinate ng movement and balance. And so, it helps with the learning and remembering of the motor skills. Isa pang part ng brain ay yung thalamus. So, si thalamus, siya yung main input center for sensory information before magpunta yung signal na yon sa cerebrum. So, yung mga incoming information from all the senses of the body as well as from the cerebral cortex, they get sorted sa thalamus. And then they get sent to the appropriate cerebral centers for further processing. And siguro, familiar din kayo sa hypothalamus. Yun yung control center that includes the body's thermostat and the central biological clock ng katawan natin. So, through its regulation of the pituitary gland, yung hypothalamus, siya yung nag-regulate ng thirst and hunger natin. It also plays a role in sexual and mating behaviors of humans. And it also initiates the fight or flight response natin. Part din ng central nervous system, yung brainstem. Siya yung nagre-receive at nag integrate ng several types of sensory information. Then, it sends yung information na into the specific region ng forebrain kung saan mangyayari yung further processing. Next, we have the spinal cord. So, spinal cord consists of tightly packed column of nerve tissue na nag-extend downwards the brainstem through the spinal column or central column of the spine. So, kahit maliit lang siyang bundle lang tissue, parang yung buong spinal cord natin, nag-weigh siya ng mere 35 grams lang. And maliit lang siya, about 1 cm in diameter, yung kapal niya. The spinal cord plays a crucial role, in our everyday lives, kasi it carries yung mga nerve signals from the brain to other parts of the body. So, nako-command or yung signal sa yun yung nagbibigay ng command sa mga muscles natin na ginagamit natin for moving. The spinal cord also receives sensory input from the body. So, from the body to the brain naman. And si spinal cord, partial niya na pinaprocess yon before transmitting the information to the brain. So that's your central nervous system. We have here the peripheral nervous system, which transmits information towards and from the central nervous system and plays also a large role in regulating our movement and yung internal environment ng katawan natin. So, CPNS, it extends beyond the central nervous system, encompassing yung nerves and the ganglia that facilitate communication between the central nervous system and the body. Now, unlike the brain and the spinal cord ng CNS na protected by the skull and the vertebrae, yung mga nerves and cells ng peripheral nervous system, hindi sila naka-enclose sa mga buto. Okay? So, out in the open siya. Or, hindi naman na out in the open kasi, syempre, meron pa rin tayong protective layering ng skin. Pero unlike kasi sa brain na nandun siya sa loob ng skull, then yung spinal cord na nandito sa vertebra, mas susceptible sa trauma yung mga nerves ng peripheral nervous system. Now, sensory information like, yung hearing, vision, taste, smell, touch. So, sensory information reaches the CNS along the PNS neurons designated as afferent. Okay? Afferent yon. Following information processing within the CNS instructions, then travel to the muscles, glands, and endocrine cells along PNS neurons designated as efferent. Okay? Kapag sensory information papunta sa central nervous system, afferent, kapag nagtatransmit ng command from the central nervous system to the muscles and other structures, that's efferent. Now, hindi naman porket meron tayong categorization dito ng sensory and motor nerves, parang makikita na natin kung ano yung sensory and motor nerves sa katawan. So, most nerves sa katawan ng tao, they contain both afferent and efferent neurons. Okay? So, last part ng nervous system ay yung neurons or yung nerves. These are the fundamental units of the nervous system that transmit electrical signals, and meron siyang tatlong part. So, parang wala akong diagram nun. But, yung three parts niya ay yung cell body. So, yung cell body, nandun yung mga cell organelles, nandun yung nucleus, and then, meron din siyang dendrites. So, yung dendrites, yun yung nagre-receive ng stimuli or ng electrical signals papunta dun sa cell body. Yung axons naman na part ng cell, siya yung nagke-carry or yung nagdadala ng stimuli or ng impulses away from the cell body. Okay, so again, you have three parts. Meron kang cell body, dendrites, and axons. Now, ano naman yung ganglion or yung glial cells? So, they support neurons and maintain the environment required for them, for the nerves to function. So, mas maraming ganglion kaysa sa mga neurons, and collectively, they are referred to as neuroglia. So, this is the end of our video lecture. This is our last topic for biology. Thank you for studying with me. I really hope na sa panonood nyo ng mga lectures na to, it helps you in your journey preparing for your college entrance exam. So, ang may iwan ko sa inyo na tip is to keep practicing, answering practice questions, kasi kapag um, palagi tayo or nasanay tayong magsagot ng mga exam questions, mas nabibuild yung test taking confidence natin. So, ayun lang. Thank you and good luck.